we closed strong on Friday. You can kind of see the gap above 2019 high. So if there's a little bit of selling pressure this morning, see what happens in here between 281 and 280.70-ish. Gonna have this high from Friday morning here, end of the day. Gap fill into just below 281. Volatility continues to compress. You can see that pretty clearly on the 30-minute if we zoom out. The last small pullback was about a month ago, February 7th and 8th. Since we took out that prior high, things really got compressed starting in here, meaning the realized volatility, which is the intraday range for the market, is getting tighter and tighter. So hopefully we'll get either an accelerated break to the upside and then some sort of pullback to trend, or perhaps a failure above 280 here, get back down below and get a decent pullback on that. Those are two potential scenarios, but buyers very much in control. We need to really look for signs of something to change there before we commit much risk on the short side. I'm talking from a market perspective. Obviously, if something comes out with a negative catalyst, you can lay in on the short side. This type of environment with low volatility is actually best to be aggressive when something has a strong catalyst in either direction. You're less likely to get shaken out. Notice IWM continues to maintain the relative weakness. High in IWM, 159.5. We are still $1 below that, whereas SPYs are gapping above the 2019 high. I would use 158 as my reference in IWM, 158 to 157.80, in case there's some weakness. See how it behaves if it comes back down into that area. All right, so let's take a PLCE, really just not good at all. Lowered EPS 30%, a 13% revenue warning. It's already got a little bit of actually a pretty decent bounce. But you can see, so the problem started, I guess last quarter it gapped down. Wow. So it was 158, it gapped down. I don't know if this was a warning or what this was. I think this looks like the earnings right here. So it looks like they warned here, and the actual earnings happened and it got crushed. The longer-term uptrend was broken coming into this. It's already touched this here in the pre-market. So the big question is going to be, can it get back like to this 84, and does it fail there? So double top 160, 50% obviously is $80, so it's got cut in half. So really the question is, do people view this as it's already been cut in half? They look at the revenue miss, it's 13%. The EPS miss is much bigger because they haven't made the adjustments they need to. The lower revenue, they make those adjustments. Can the stock kind of bottom into this and work its way back up to, I guess, should they be thinking like 100? But the first thing to look for is a failure here at the prior low. If it is a holding above 84 and starts to kind of trend higher, means people think they just need to right-size the expenses and the EPS will start to recover. It was a monster run on this breakout here. Normally only does 600,000 shares, but I imagine it's going to do, let's see, looking at the longer term chart, 2 to 3 million shares when it has strong catalyst. So it's slowly moving up. It's done about 140,000 shares so far, which is more than 20% its average daily volume. The buyer stepped in here at 79 and 80. So I have 80 on the sheet. So let's say, so the mini uptrend right now in the pre-markets, let's say it gets here on the open and they're selling it. You know, I definitely would be playing it on the short side. Question, you know, ideally it would very quickly come into $82. You know, would fail to really go up much, and then they come back into where they're buying it in the pre-market. And we kind of see, are there actually buyers here? The market opens, willing to support it, or just slices right through and ends up being one of those closes at the low. Prepare for either direction. But we'll see when the volume really starts to come in after 9:30. ASND. Okay, so this is a really thin stock. Usually stocks like this I won't even put on the sheet, but there isn't much going on. And it isn't such a strong uptrend, and it does have a history when it gapped up. Well, let's go to the longer term. So kind of when this uptrend started to accelerate a while ago, it did do 3 million shares on a gap up. So that was here. Now this one, on this gap up to 40, it just got sold hard down to $34. Didn't quite fill the gap, but you can kind of see the monster trend, and then it's been consolidating for about a year. This was a year ago. Obviously, it's moved way away from the uptrend, but it did spend a year consolidating between 75 and 55. Let's see how much it came off already. Oh, it didn't actually. Okay, so it stopped here in the pre-market at 115, came off $5. Actually, more than that. Came off like $8, $7. Let's see. Okay, so the gap was above 100, and they bought a bid, 116. Okay, put that on the sheet. Came back down to 108, where they it broke through. Looks like 104 they were buying it too. So it very well could come back down to 100 if there's some sell pressure right on the open, just because it's such a huge percentage gap, even with that 1 year of consolidation. I want to see it. So it's done, you know what? It's done 400,000 shares already. It's going to do a few million shares. So it's probably, you're risking at least $1 to $2 trading it. But if you can get a tight consolidation, you know, it comes in, it's being bought here, it gets really tight and starts to move up. Could catch a move back up to the pre-market high. You could actually just come on the open, just catch a vertical move on the above the pre-market high, where it goes up to 120, 125, and then comes in and kind of settles down between 110 and 120. There's a bunch of possibilities. I don't think it's an ICPT situation. It's just a weak stock where they jawboned a press release and it just came off for 3 days before bouncing. It does seem like people will try to hold this gap. The question is of where will they hold it? Right now it's, you know, a $40 gap, up 57%. Seems reasonable that it could come in some more before holding. SE. So these guys are doing a secondary. Had real good news last week, apparently. So it was up a ton. And gapped up to 18, ended up closing at 22. don't know if anyone caught that, but that's was up in the pre-market, big volume, opening drive, and then closed at the high, consolidated for a day, made a new high. They're using this opportunity to do a big secondary. It looked like to me, they said 50 million shares, so let's say at 20, that's $1 billion, $8 billion market cap. That is about 12% of their market cap, so it's big. The really question is, does it catch a bid, coming into this area here? But worth keeping an eye on if it comes in closer to 20. It's already actually looks like it got a bid already. Let's see what happens on the open. Yeah, I guess they announced this after the close on Friday, and it was below 21. I'd be surprised if it could retake this area right here until they price the deal. All right, second day's technicals. So FL, Foot Locker. So Foot Locker had a huge gap. The numbers looked great. And then they said some stuff in the conference call that got it to be weak. And then I guess that scared people from kind of supporting it the rest of the day. So right on the open, flushed through 64, had the $2 bounce back up to kind of this 66 level, and then trended down all the way to 62. And then finally kind of just consolidated the rest of the day from there. So let's see here. I think it caught a couple of upgrades after this. What do we have for 64.60? Which is this. 66, where it bounced to on the open. So it's pretty messy. It was basically, after it bottomed, it got back up to 63 here, couldn't hold above, went back down, couldn't hold above 63 and a quarter, just looking at it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Finally, at the end of the day, it got really tight below 63 and a quarter. Looked like it was going to go, and they sold it again. So I guess this morning, the way I would look at it is if it starts to consolidate above this right in here, in this area here, and then breaks to the upside, it's got a shot working its way back up. And that's really it. AOI, they did a very big convertible bond offering, which is 20% of the market cap. And I think that's why it hasn't bounced yet, but that's 2 days of selling. So you do have upside back to here, back to here. So keep an eye on that. And just want to see here. Yeah. Suppose if it retakes this 1360, that would catch my attention, or even 1350. Right on the open, first moves up, starts to hold above 1350. Do you think it's a reasonably good chance it's going to get back to 14, 14 and a half? KHC played that pop the other day. It pulled back in. It got an upgrade from Morgan Stanley today. So perhaps that's enough for it to retake this 33.50 and hold above there. BPTH was very in play on Friday. So, any of the, day one on these, you always want to look if there's heavy volume to play it on the long side. If the first move is up and it holds and breaks to the upside, it actually had a bigger move, I guess, in the late morning from where it went from $5.30 to $8. It pulled back to the breakout price. So, and that's another good one, by the way. I know, like, when you see a top out here, you're thinking it might completely reverse, but it still is day one, and that is a big breakout from $5.50 to $8. So when that comes back to $5.50, you want to give it a shot. See if it comes back up to here, $7, $8. Let's see where it is this morning. It's kind of right in the middle, so support 5.5, 6, resistance 8, 850. I just want you to see the history. If it can spend a couple of days, above $6, then maybe it has a shot. Yeah. If it actually fails on the open and it's consolidating below 6, and then takes out the support from the midday in the afternoon, it could just be a one and done situation. NTNX. So this one actually closed below 35. It tried to bounce midday, got back up to that 35 level where it had failed on the open, and just closed weak, but didn't get down to the where it bounced from right here. So let's zoom in. And it was interesting. I actually bought it here, and I caught this. I was off the desk. I think I had an offer to get flat like 34.60 or something like that as I got closer to like 35. But it spent a lot of time being bought there. I remember thinking I'd probably get stopped out when I left the desk. It actually worked. Once I got above 30, I guess 33.50 here and had this bar, that was the first kind of like, okay, maybe it's changing. And it came back for a split second, gave you a chance to buy it at the breakup price before going up $1.50. It's a little bit unusual for it to have that nice of a reversal and then be bought here at 34.50 and kind of not close strong. So I think I'm prepared for it to go either way, below 33, keep on going, or above 35 and have a decent bounce.